Hi guys, welcome to the latest episode of Cricket Draft Insights. In this video, I'm going to reveal my 2025 T20 Blast squad. I'm going to start with Michael Pepper. He was in my team last year, scored a couple hundreds. He's curiously on my county championship bench at the moment, but when I come to my actual wicket keeping option, we'll discuss that. So Pepper just as a batter, lots of really good options in the batting, and a couple of tough calls in the wicket-keeping slot, actually, as there is in the county championship. Pepper, quite popular, but extremely destructive. I can't not pick him, so he's my first batting option. Next player is Daniel Hughes. I've slightly jinxed him in the county championship. I brought him in. He's dried up a little. Made a few starts. I'm still confident he can score lots of runs. Last year in the T20 Blast, I think he ended up being the leading run scorer. Few people were a bit sceptical because historically he played a bit of an anchor role in Australia. Strike rate wasn't the highest, but I thought he was going to kick on and improve a bit and score a bit quicker. And he did, I think, around 500 runs. So again, reasonably popular selection, I think, based off last year. But he's in my team. And his selection, in a way, is why I haven't ended up picking Caleb Jewell, who I have had and I'm persevering with in the county championship, even though he's dried up a little bit. Similar in that his T20 record is not as good as Hughes. I do expect it to get better, but I just can't accommodate everyone. I've then got Joe Cracknell, who sort of gate crashed my team. £6 million actually means, reasonably competitively priced the players in this competition. And he, from being maybe like a, what's the word I'm looking for, differential, is actually slightly mainstreamish pick. Yes, he's been in 16% of teams I've seen. He did score something like a 61 ball 97 the other day. Yesterday, I think, in a second 11 match. Very capable. We've seen it before, some really destructive innings. So I think he's a really exciting pick. He rounds off my batting lineup. Michael Pepper, Daniel Hughes and Joe Cracknell. On to the all-rounders. I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with Safe Save in the county championship, but he is going to be in my T20 Blast side because I think he'll bat 4 or 5, score quick runs. I'm optimistic he will bowl. There's no Ashton Agar, so Safe Save's going to be bowling left-arm spin. And I'll come to another Northamptonshire spinner later. Really destructive player. And again, just falls in that category. If I don't pick him, I'm going to get really annoyed. And he's part of the reason why James Coles, who's a player I always nearly pick in the county championship as well. And as a left-arm spinner, people know I love my left-arm spinners in T20. I'd love to have him in. But again, theory of numbers, just can't get him in. Safe Saves in. I then got Luke Wells as captain. Now, he really has gate crashed my team. There's a lot of all-rounders. But the fixture list is Lancashire have a triple game week, okay? I'm not going to lie, like a lot of their players do not appeal to me, but Luke Wells has really kicked on as a bowler. I'm picking him more for his bowling than his batting. It is worth noting they have Chris Green and Liam Livingston will seemingly be available. I mentioned about Charlie Barnard doing really well. I hope Wells can still get a few overs with the ball. He's quite an unusual bowler, so I think it's difficult for people to handle. I think he will take wickets, just hit some runs in the county championship. And hopefully his batting continues to evolve a bit in T20s as well. Even if he's in the middle order, I'm not too bothered. If he's up top, great, and he comes off. I picked him more for his bowling, to be honest with you. Hopefully he's going to play all 3 games. I then got Ethan Brooks. Now, I mentioned in a previous video that I wasn't going to make the mistake of not picking Ben Green. I haven't picked Ben Green. I think Somerset only played once in the second game week 2, which also ties into my non-selection of Tom Smith in my bowlers, because I think Gloucestershire only played once and I've had to make some decisions there because I think I've only got 1 single game weeker in week 1, but trying to avoid having single game weekers in week 2. Anyway, Ethan Brooks, he's had his moments in the county championship, bar that 80-odd against Essex in that feisty match. He hasn't really done a lot, but he did make a few contributions in the last game, bat and ball. And T20 is where I expect him to excel. Sort of miserly bowling, good fielder, funky batter. He can hit sixes. Mentioned it a few times. He hit 5 sixes in and over in the Hong Kong sixes. So he should come good in the T20s. Ethan Brooks. I then got Jordan Thompson, who's regularly my captain in the T20 Blast when Yorkshire's number of games allows it. I do have some slight concerns because Yorkshire did really well last year with Bess, Chauhan and Moriarty as 3 different types of spinners. That's why when I mentioned about Northamptonshire, they don't have Agar, who's a left-hand spinner as well as Agar. I'm going to talk about Lloyd Pope later, who's a leg spinner. So Yorkshire have off-spin, leg spin and slow left armour. Now, there was a rumour Rashid playing, which I hope doesn't cost Chauhan. I also hope it doesn't cost, say, Moriarty, because Yorkshire at one point were one of the teams that didn't play left-arm spinner. Moriarty should be opening the bowling. So I want them to play those 3 spinners. Now, they've got O'Rourke, even if he's at the IPL now, and Sutherland and Thompson. right? So if Sutherland is all the way up at 6, there's an argument some people are going to say everybody's batting in place too high, which was the argument in the county championship this week. And there's also they can't all bowl 4 overs. So that's my concern there. And if you think back to last year where Jordan Thompson was regularly held back with the bat, they literally held him back so that the only option he had was to try and hit 6s, which in a way is great because he's very capable of that. But I do just have some slight concerns, as much as I rate Jordan Thompson. Also worth noting, he got dropped on the county championship side, came back and made a statement performance, and has then had a couple of games. But anyway, if I don't pick him, I do really well. I think they must play twice in the first week, maybe even the second. So Jordan Thompson is in as it stands. Matty Hurst is my wicket keeper. So 2 Lancashire players with a triple game week. Should bat maybe 4 or 5. Unless they do anything funky and he opens. Didn't have a great big bash, of course, but he has been in form in the county championship. I had Ben Cox for a while when I was doing my 1 player per team policy. And then I brought Hurst in, and actually that's timed well, because I think he had a quite his first game and I wondered what was going on, but he's made 3 or 4 50s recently, actually. I think he was my saving grace last week, because I think he made a 50 in each innings, when I some disappointing showings elsewhere. Quite expensive at 7 million, considering he only averaged 21 and didn't do great in the big bash, but I do still see him in upward trajectory player, triple game week. So Matty Hurst is in. Onto my bowlers, as I say, I've ended up with no Tom Smith. I have got Tom Rogers, served me well in the big bash. Joint second highest wicket taker, as I think was Lloyd Pope, who I've mentioned before, and I'll come to. Capable of scoring runs as well. So 29% of his career runs are 6s. He's in that bowling all-rounder category. I think it's right that he is a bowler. So Kent only played once in game week 1, but I think maybe played 2, maybe even 3 times in the second week. Didn't actually do that great last year in the T20 Blast. He only took 1 wicket in 5 games, but he had 1 innings where he scored some runs. But I think he'll be a really, really good selection, Tom Rogers. I then got Tazim Ali. Now I hope he plays, but I have got a relevant sub, I think. Tazim Ali has been sort of the old term budget enabler in the county championship, has played a bit at 4.9 million. This game, a little bit tight in terms of making things work if you want some expensive players and trying to find some value at the bottom and not just having Ben Compton or whatever. So Tazim Ali, Warwickshire have a lot of spin options. Danny Briggs, Jake Lintop, Dan Mousley. Is Bo Webster playing? Could bowl spin? Is there somebody else they've signed? Plus Tazim Ali, exciting leg spinner. Saw him when I watched a bit in the under 19 World Cup a few years ago. So exciting. Great to see him play a bit of red ball. Does he play every game? Not necessarily, but he should play a bit. He's in my 11. And my sub is decent, but because of the double game week, Tazim Ali is in my 11. And that brings me to Lloyd Pope, who I've mentioned a few times. Again, I think he was joint second wicket taker in the big bash. 1 or 2 games. Was it Sam's took him apart in 1 game? But then he responded. He's an attacking leg spinner. He takes wickets. Much better for Northamptonshire, having the contrast of leg spin and slow left arm. Be exciting to have both Zabe and Pope in. £7 million, fair enough. Exciting player. Does continue to get better. Has improved a bit in red ball as well. So he's in my team. So off the top of my head, and I haven't really played around with it too much. I mean, I have prior to the game going live, but since I've put it together, Michael Pepper, Daniel Hughes, Joe Cracknell, glance at my paper. Safe save, Luke Wells captain, Ethan Brooks, Jordan Thompson, Matty Hurst as wicketkeeper, Tom Rogers, Tazim Ali, and Lloyd Pope. And then onto my bench, okay? Louis Kimber, disappointing average, but we know what he's capable of. Strike rate is 150, can hit 6s, and I think might bowl, and he's captain, so he plays. Now, he's a player I'm not opposed to batting a bit lower, because I actually think he might be better as a bit of a finisher. But he's my sub batter. Usual story for me, I'm starting with 1 sub in each position. Zach Chappell, really exciting. Now, a couple of teams here, I think, have a triple game week in week 2. Zach Chappell, who can score some runs, but took a lot of wickets last year, takes wickets in T20. He took a 5-wicket haul. Was it he was playing for somebody else in the Global Super League? Did well there, so I expect him to be in the wickets. I've got 2 Glamorgan players. Will Smale as wicketkeeper. I expect him to open. Obviously, Kimber is more expensive, but Smale, I think, will open for Glamorgan. And then I've got Andy Gorvin. And then Tazim Ali doesn't play. Hopefully, Gorvin does. I just still freaked out by Glamorgan dropping Gorvin in the county championship. But he's shown what he's about recently. And I just think, like in white ball, he should do even better because he's just such a clever, canny bowler. So really excited with that team, that squad, how it's set up for like the next game week. Really interesting setup, I think, with the triple game weeks for some of the teams over the course of a few weeks. Very pleased with that team. As do you know what, I'm pretty pleased with my county championship team, which for next week I've still currently got Josh Bohannon and Safe Save in my team, even though they've been out and in a few times. But anyway, we're talking about the T20 Blast. That is my squad. Please let me know what you think and who is in yours. Wish you all the best of luck in the competition. How's that?